Guys, we are going to build a mud minnow trap today. If you saw part one, basically put together all the tools and the materials, talked a little bit about the design, maybe even some dimensions. I'm not gonna bore you to death with a whole lot of stuff. I'm gonna try to make this as quick as possible. These traps take about 2 hours to make, so I'm gonna try to compress this down into maybe 15 minutes. First thing we gotta do is we're going to need we build our sides to create this structure of the box. And to do that, the sides are 7.5 inches tall. So this is just a piece of leftover that I know will make a side. And it is 8 inches by, we need this to be 48. So we get our 11.5 inch square trap, and that's exactly 48 inches. All right, so this is 8 by 48. Everything from here out goes, at least go. All right, we'll get started on that. I like to cut these with a little bit of an angle. Kind of helps prevent the sharp points on the cross wire. Close-up. You see how the wire is stacked? You have these are on this side and these are on the underside, and they're welded together. Possibly you can see that. All right, so what I like to do is the side, if this is going to be on its side and a fish is trying to swim to get in there, I want these bars, the horizontal bars, to be on the outside of the trap. And I also want the horizontal bars to be on the inside of the inlet whenever the fish are swimming in. So I want as little resistance for the fish. I don't want anything to hinder him wanting to go in there or her wanting to go in there and eat. So with that being said, now I go ahead and mark out. I know that my traps are 11.5 by 11.5 square. 11.5. All right. So, man, it is hot today. All right, so now that I've got it marked, you're gonna wanna bend. What I do is I just take it over the table on the marks, and I bend every single one at that mark on 11.5, and then create my overlap with the last section. And there you have it. That is your structure, that is your sides. And I will hog ring. One thing important about the hog rings on this is I never put them up on the top row of wire or the bottom row of wire. Whenever I'm doing all of this work in here, I always avoid that. I move down and at least go over the lower section, like here and here and then there and there. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that real quick. And you can see that I didn't just put it across in that 1/2 inch section where that can slide up and down. I diagonal these. I get top of one side and bottom of the other, and that way they do not slide, and it does not allow the material to slide. Okay, so that is done. So the second thing after this is built is we need to cut a top and a bottom. So these are 11.5 inches by 11.5 inches, and they are a perfect fit for our our box. So the only one you put on now is the bottom. You'll put the bottom in, and I do something very similar. Now this, I do use the top wire for this, and I stay away from this section right here. I go to the next one. So I'm gonna crimp that one there. And then I will oppose that with a similar, see how that can slide back and forth in there like that? So I like to make it where it can only go so far, and then I'm going to go back to this second one and I am going to pull that one away from the other one in that fashion. So right now, see, it's locked in, it can't go, no more sliding. All right, and I'll continue all four corners like that. All right, so basically that's locked in place. There will be some more hog rings after we're all done. But for now, this will get us started. The next thing is the entryways. All right, so let's talk about the entryways. All right, so we find our center wire, and we're gonna push this together, and we're gonna come up through the bottom, and we're gonna put a hog ring over it and the center wire of the bottom. It's a little easier said than done. So I stand the trap up, get my center wire, then I'm going to come in here. A lot of times I like to, I have to crimp it a little bit to get the hog nose in there as deep as I need to. But there you see, I've got all three wires, this outside, and this bottom, all three crimped into one. All right, and that's the critical part. Gets it all lined up for you. And then the next step is your outside. So you're going to take your center bar and you're going to come out two, come up one, and put a hog ring on that. And then I do that on the opposite side in the same exact place on that second from center bar. So sometimes you've got to pull them pretty hard to get that out there. All right, so there it is. Just like that, okay? So you can see that we've got 1, 2, 3, and that's essentially holding that in place. I will add more, and then we have to cut out this opening, and then when we do that, there's a special technique to make that where there's no sharp edges or anything like that in there, and I'll show you that here in just a minute. Okay, I've gone ahead and added the rest of the hog rings to secure the entryway. I've got it shaped pretty much how I want. And now we're going to cut this out. And to do that, I'm going to move the camera. Okay, so now I have installed the rest of the hog rings that I need to secure the entryway. Now we're going to cut this opening out. And when I do that, I leave the exterior side bars, the wire, long so I can bend it back in there. So I will start cutting it as far over this way on this first section as I can, all the way up. And then when I get to the top, I turn it the opposite direction. This one here, I will cut it long. I'm going to cut this one completely off, doesn't need to be there. Then cut this one long, and then it gets a little tricky down here. I've got to cut this without cutting the bottom. So you cut that one, and you cut that one, okay? So essentially you get a piece out like this, and now you have an opening with all of these sharp bars in it. So what I like to do when I'm bending this is I like to use the ends of these pliers that have the rubber on them. Makes a really good gripper and keeps you from hurting your fingers. And I just push those in, completely in and out of the way. All right, so there you go. You can see that all of the wires are bent back. I will probably tuck them in a little bit tighter, but essentially that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to make a nice smooth transition from the outside to the inside, so they just, you know, feel comfortable going in there and then shoot right through this without bumping anything. But anyway, so that's pretty much the concept behind the entryway. It's kind of a teardrop shape. I will shape that up a little bit better than that. And I'm going to go ahead now and add the second one. Okay, now that we have the sides, the bottom, and both entryways done, now we can actually proceed with putting the top on. Again, this is 11.5 by 11.5, so you just cut out a piece that's 11.5 by 11.5 and install it same way you did the bottom. All right, so the top is secured down. Go ahead and continue on with putting everything in. The door will be installed. Good time to talk about this. The door, the access door, is going to be installed on the top, and it's going to be opposite of these two entryways. So it's going to be here or here. So I'm going to go ahead and say it's going to be here. All right, I have cut out the door piece, okay, and it is a 8 by 6. Let me double check that. I haven't been known to make a mistake. 6, 8, perfect. All right, so what I do is I place that on top of here, and I'm going to cut out the opening in the trap, like I said, 1/2 of an inch smaller on all 4 sides. So I will be cutting along this second row, and then up, and then I will be cutting at from there to there. It'll be 5 inches. So we'll go ahead and measure that and mark it, and I always put this back on top to verify before I cut. What do they say? Measure twice, cut once. So I'm going to go ahead and mark all of these wires so there's no confusion as I'm cutting to every one that gets cut. Now the funny thing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, that makes sense because there really is, you can't center it on 1/2 inches on 11.5 inch. Okay, so it'll be off centered by just a tad. All right, so now I'm just gonna not even use a tape measure. I'm just gonna use this as my guide. Keep it simple, stupid. As long as they line up and you have a 1/2 inch over here, 1/2 inch here, half inch there, and 1/2 inch there. All right, that is absolutely wonderful. But I do need to verify that I am cutting here, not one up, because I did mark that and that could have been confusing. So again, take your time. Measure twice, cut once. All right, that is game time. Ta-da! All right, so now we have our opening. Yeah, it's still pretty damn sharp. And that's where you gotta stick your hands in and get the bait and monkey around in there. So I am going to go ahead and take a grinder and smooth that out a little bit before I install the door. One thing that you have to be real careful about when you're grinding these out, cleaning these up, do not hit these corner wires right here and right here, because if you do, you'll cut it. And then that gets all floppy, and then your door gets a gap in it. So you just got to be real conscientious about not accidentally, because it won't take much with a grinder to just barely nick that and cut that wire. Right. Much, much better. Still got a little bit of a sharp edge, but nothing that will poke you, okay? See, I can grab that, no problem. 100% better, 100% better. Feel like I need to put a little bit of an angle on those. I think I'll do that. Seems to be a little too sharp. So I kind of angled that. Much, much, much better. All right, so there we go. Problem solved. All right, so to install the door, just lay the door up on top, and you just put 4 rings. You can't diagonal across your bars here. You have to get them in between like that so it operates smoothly. If they're diagonal, it'll get up here and bind, and then it won't allow it to go all the way back. And when you're dumping these traps out, it's kind of imperative that it goes all the way back. You hold it like this and you dump like that. So there you go. There's your top installed. Now we'll put a bungee cord on the top. What I do on that is I come back to the second row, come in from the top. I like to go over 2 wires so you can see I've gone over across. So I'm grabbing 2 wires, not just one. Get a hog ring, load it up, pull this down, snug down to the bottom, give it a little bit of a stretch, get all the slack out of it you can, and then give that an awesome crimp. I'm going to double crimp it just to make sure it's nice and tight, so you can see it's really, really well crimped and tight. And there it is. There is the trap complete. Whenever I have these traps in the water, I lift them up by the ropes. I'll show you on this one. I won't even have to put it on there today. I'll just show you on this one. So what I do is I take the rope, and center is over here. So you can see that I'm back off center by about 1 inch right here where I tie the rope. And the reason I do that is whenever I pull that trap up out, I want it to tilt forwards like that. So the minnows will slide down to this end because this is where the door is. So when I pull that trap up, you know, it's got minnows in it. Let's just say I'm gonna make this representative of minnows. Throw that in there. All right, the door is closed. I lift this trap up. First thing that happens is they slide down to the front. And the more that slide this way, the heavier it gets and the more it wants to stand up on this end. That does a couple of things. One is it gets them down here easy to dump. The other is it doesn't allow them to be monkeying around, jumping and flopping and get out of these holes. I have seen that happen a time or two. So once you lift that trap up, I usually just toss the float over the back, flip open the lid, grab the entire top like this, turn it upside down, and just dump it just like that, shake it back and forth, get all the minnows out into my sort tray, and then take the bait, separate it from the minnows, sort the minnows, throw the bait back in the trap, close the door, grab the trap, throw it back in the water, and go to the next one. So that's how you do that. That's key. You know, if you want to do it, you don't have to do it that way, just, you know, the way I'm doing it. And another thing about this, I always just do 2 double knots or a double knot on here, and then I pull the rope back. You know, this is paracord. Pull the rope back, crimp, and put a hog ring on it so it can untie itself. All right, so I do that on both ends. I use a torch and I melt the ends. This is paracord, so it's got a lot of nylon in it. It melts down so it doesn't fray and you don't have to deal with, you know, crappy lines. The length of this rope, you can see this is about 2 foot from the bottom up. If you're chasing mud minnows in deeper than 2 foot water, you're doing it wrong, okay? Mud minnows, Mud minnows are generally going to be in about 12 inches of water or less. So there's really no reason to have a long float. Now you may want to just put a rope on one of these and throw it out and tie it to a tree, you know, don't want to float on it, you know, that kind of a thing. So, you know, you can do this any way you want to, but for the way I use these, and you know, because I run these out of boats, I run them out of an airboat, run them out of a kicker boat, and I set the trap very specific locations in a specific way, and then I let them soak for about 30-45 minutes, maybe an hour sometimes, and I go back and pull them. So if I set them and the tide is coming in, I set them where the water level is here, I come back in an hour, the water level may be here, okay? So where I'm located, we have about 4 or 5 foot max tidal movement or tidal exchange. So, you know, in an hour's time, we generally don't have that much movement that I have to worry about that. Another thing, like with this, I use these are like pool floats that it comes with a rope and all these different floats on there. It's tapered in the center. I just push my rope through there, tie a knot in it, put a hog ring on it, pull it back down because it's tapered in the middle, gets really, really tight and will not come off. You have to push it from here with a punch to get it back out if you ever wanted to do something different with it. But these are a hell of a lot cheaper than buying floats for a trap. I can tell you that right now. You can get, I think you get like 12 of these floats on a 25-foot rope or something like that for 25 bucks. So that's basically $2 a piece. You get the rope, you get the hooks, you get the floats. It's a hell of a lot cheaper than anything I've been able to find that is a, quote, float for a trap. All right, so there you have it. Trap built. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope it was informative. I hope it wasn't boring. I know how it is. You're trying to learn how to do something and somebody just yaks the whole time. I try my best not to do that. But anyway, so if you guys liked it, please like, subscribe. If you've got any kind of other questions about traps or about mud minnows or any kind of bait or even fishing questions, you know, feel free to comment, help you out any way I can. And I hope you guys enjoy it.